And what I had the kids do, first of all, was we were coloring our maps of the United States, and we were coloring, this is pre-Civil War, we were coloring the northern states, the southern states, Mason-Dixon line, which nobody had heard of, so I added that in there last minute, and our border states, which we have a saying for, MKMD, Matt knows Miss Disler, and at one point it got changed by Miss Disler to Matt killed Miss Disler, for Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland and Delaware. So when we were coloring these maps, I noticed a lot of things. The lesson, first of all, it was pointed out to me that it didn't really flow very well. It was kind of, I probably should have done the compromises before I did the lesson instead of doing the states and their locations before I did the compromises, but in my crazy thinking, we had just covered Manifest Destiny, and we had gone through all of the territory acquisitions and the maps that I kept showing over and over, and it was a joke to the kids how often I kept showing the same maps, or different versions of the same map. So I thought that it would flow better if I started explaining the territory locations before the compromises so they could still associate with those maps. Bad idea. First of all, my transitions didn't go well at all between the lesson. I had a foldable with the states, border states, northern states, southern states. We explained, we went over how border states still had slaves, but they were considered a part of the Union. So going all that, I think it was just difficult, and I talked to another teacher about this beforehand. It's difficult to explain the compromises, like the Compromise of 1820, or that's the Missouri Compromise, Compromise of 1850, and Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854. It's really hard to explain and have the students understand these compromises and the meanings behind it. And I found that towards the end of the unit, the kids started to get it better. Let's see here. This was the slaves, that was particularly confusing for them. But towards the end they got it, especially after we added that West Virginia and we made that connection there. They understood why West Virginia broke off. And I think our trips to the archives really reinforced what I was trying to tell the kids, because they saw papers of slaves being traded, like the official documents. They saw letters from people in West Virginia and stuff, and the historian there, he was actually able to explain some of the differences between West Virginia and their beliefs in Virginia, which was cool. It was very difficult to develop a linking question because it was a lot of an overview of the basic information that they were going to need to know in order to understand the stuff that was going to come in the unit after that. However, when I was telling them to color the states, I couldn't just tell them to color the states. I ended up having to give them some background on the compromises and stuff. And what shocked me the most was I went around while they were coloring and was quizzing the students on which ones were the border states and whether they had slaves or not, and none of the students knew where Delaware was. They all pointed to Rhode Island. I'd say at least half of the students in both classes did that. So I was going through and quizzing them on their geography and clarifying where Delaware was. It's the little square cut out of Maryland. And I would go through and say, where did we learn that D.C. was? Because I did a special lesson on D.C. and the founding of it. And kind of had to go through that way and explain to the kids. So I think most of them now know where Delaware is. I've quizzed them throughout the unit. I definitely think I should have done the compromises first, even though in my head it made more sense. Or maybe I should have done the compromises and the map at the same time. Like describe the compromises and have them color the map as we went. But then again, that doesn't include all the other states. I felt like it was, I wanted them to have the maps at the beginning of the unit so I could say, hey, remember those red states on the map? That was a union. This happened up in here. Remember that blue state. Remember the green states? So I could kind of keep reflecting back to that map and use it as information, as a background. It didn't flow. It was a mess. But the kids, I was able to use it throughout the unit, and the kids did get it. Next time, I need to really figure out how to do a better way to do this. And I was talking to the other teachers about it, like I said before, and they were really struggling with how to do it too. And they said that that's just a choppy lesson with the map. Maybe labeling the states in the beginning, and then we go back through and color as we learn them, or recolor, or maybe relabel where events happened as we learn them, like the compromises and stuff.